everybody. This is the best looking host in sports media. So Phil was giving me a hard time being ugly before it comes. I ain't got much competition. Phil, before we go to our guest, though, this concludes 2 years of doing this every week. It's went fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has been a lot of positives in this, though. I never, you kept trying to talk me into doing this, and I never thought I'd like it. But so far, it's been pretty good.
We have a lot of fun, and tonight we have the privilege, and I think this is only the second time we've had this combination father-son coaching staff together, and a brand new head coach, Coach Caleb Henshaw of Ider. Welcome in, Coach. How are you today?
I'm good, guys. I just appreciate you having us on.
Hey, Coach, I already told you got to do this about twice a year for the next 40 years. We don't know if Phil will make it the next 40, but I'm planning on it, so we'll be all right.
You guys are still running strong. You got it.
Yeah. Hey, if we stay away from Ohio State, we'll be fine. Coach, I want to start by asking you a question about your staff and having who you've got on staff, and what was your decision? I know you're a young coach and your first head coaching job. What was that process of putting your staff together like?
Well, we dropped 1A this year, and of course, anytime you drop in classifications, I'm sure you guys know teaching units become a factor because you lose units when you drop. State funding, all those things are catered around how many kids you have and those kind of things. So as far as a current staff, there was nobody that was already on staff that was hired here that I kind of inherited. So when I got the job in May, it was basically going to be a volunteer basis only as far as guys that I had or that I could reach out to. And of course, being a head coach in general, but especially a new head coach, like you want to have people around you that you can trust because, I was an assistant the past few years. You kind of get to be the good cop and you get the head coaching tag. You got to be the bad cop a lot of times. And so having somebody around you that you can trust was just the main thing, and somebody, that was willing to learn as far as what I wanted to do, our terminology, the way we wanted to do things. So beside me here is Dustin Henshaw, which is my dad. And I have another assistant as well, Jesse Massey. He's a young kid that graduated here. I say young, he's not that much younger than me. He's 20-ish. He's Coach Pruitt's soon-to-be son-in-law. And he kind of floats back and forth and helps both of us. But me and Coach actually are both coaching 7 through 12 as far as the head coaching role goes, which is, I would say, him being a state champion last year and having to coach all 3 teams probably don't happen very often. But he's in the same shoes I am as far as we have to put a ton of time in it. But it's also a blessing. I still enjoy coaching the 7th and 8th grade kids, and they still have a lot of love for the game. It's fresh and new to them. So that's a fun age group to coach with too. So
that's awesome. Now, I'm going to have to ask Coach Dustin Henshaw one question here before I go to Phil. Coach, with being on staff, is part of your role that Coach Henshaw, Caleb, can believe that or knows that the feedback you're going to give him is going to be 100% to the point? Because a lot of times assistants, they walk a fine line, but you don't have to. You can just tell him what's on your mind, correct?
Well, since I have been here since he was brought into this world, I can probably be more real with him than most people can be. It's a unique situation. I think we're very real with each other, but we've always kind of had that relationship.
Yeah.
I've coached him growing up, Little League, and then I helped coach at Section when he was playing quarterback there. I was kind of helped coach up there, and he's been brought up around it. I helped at North Jackson, was the team chaplain there. 2 different stints, one with Mark Rhodes and then Sean Peak, and then I came back later when Coach Rhodes came back to North Jackson and helped there for a while. So he's kind of used to me being real with him. It's kind of role reversal. My daughter-in-law doesn't know how we're going to handle it. He's had to tell me I was wrong a few times, and I was. And I told a kid to do something. He's like, "Dad, that's not what we're supposed to be doing." And so it's a little different. He's the boss. When I walk in the gym, it's a role reversal. I'm still his dad. I'll always be his dad. But I also have to understand this is his deal. It's his show, and I'm just here to help him be another set of eyes. He says I'm the good cop. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, So sometimes being a good cop is hard for me, but because I do want to get on them a little bit. But it's fun. It's fun to get to watch him grow and get to see him, kind of see your kid get to live his dream, and you get the inside track with him. It's pretty fun.
Phil, as you know, my daughter played the initial football league here in Tennessee. She told me I didn't need to be in the broadcast booth, the sidelines, that my job was to be in the stands. I think she understood that I was incapable of coaching, broadcasting, or anything. So any parent can do that. Is more power to me. All I do is yell a lot. So, Phil, go ahead, take over the questions.
Okay, well, guys, welcome in. Great to have you on. I know you two are great folks. And Ider's blessed to have you two. In the court, in the gym. Of course, Caleb, I want to talk a little bit about your background. Of course, you went to school at Section and
Yes,
played at Section. And wasn't Jamie Pruitt your coach when you played at Section?
Yes, sir, he was. And I'd actually played for Coach prior to that. It kind of, a lot of people think I moved there to play for Coach because I was at Stevenson Middle School and he was at North Jackson. And just so happened I left Stevenson Middle School after my 8th grade year, and about 2 weeks after I had enrolled, or maybe even a week or less, Coach McCarver left and took the Skyline job. So I was kind of up in air as far as who was going to be coaching me in high school. I'd made some friends at Section and felt like those are the guys that I wanted to play with. And then it worked out perfectly. I'd played JV ball after my middle school year at North Jackson for Coach Pruitt and his dad. And so Coach Pruitt got hired, and we've basically been together ever since in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and you're speaking of Coach McCarver, of course, Coach McCarver, of course, he retired here recently, but outstanding basketball coach. I know a lot of dealings with him back when I used to do radio for K98. Section had their runs to Jacksonville and even the state championship. And I want to ask you about this, Caleb, before we go further. Did you know TJ Perry? He's one, that, of course, he played at Skyline at one time. His senior year, he transferred to Section. They won the state championship. And he's so well thought of in the community. And I would run into him every once in a while. He's one that we lost. That really hurts.
Yes, sir. No doubt. I think his impact just on local basketball and kids in general was huge. He was somebody that we kind of got close, I guess, kind of just through the game. He was a guy who always reached out and talked to me. And my mom and dad went to Skyline. My dad didn't graduate from there, but my mom and her siblings graduated from Skyline. And then Coach Wright, Josh Wright, who's now the principal at Skyline, he was my middle school coach, and he was on that state championship team with TJ. So I knew TJ in a lot of different capacities, and he was just a guy who was always steady. Like, you could always text him with a question, or he would reach out to you, tell you good job, ask you how you're doing. Like, I just think he truly loved the game, and guys that he felt like did the game justice and played the game the right way, or, worked at it, studied it, those kind of things. It was just a mutual respect thing. It's definitely a huge loss, and I think that's obvious by how many people are honoring him, in multiple ways through social media or on their jerseys. I know Skyline, they put a decal down, I know, in their paint. I think Section has something on their warm-ups. There's a lot of schools and a lot of places, obviously, that he touched and that he was highly thought of across the state and the basketball community.
I remember when he left Skyline and went to Section, I thought, when I was calling games, I thought there would be some animosity between Skyline and Section, but there never was. I guess that TJ was so well thought of, that they just wanted the best of him. And the thing is about TJ, and I could tell on the court, he made everybody else around him better, and I'm sure that's the way he was off the court also.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, we all know, or if you know of his playing career, he was a point guard. And, I've had that conversation with the young guys that are playing point guard here for me. Like, you're supposed to be an extension of the coach. Like, you're the quarterback on the court. If you have a point guard that you can trust and that they know what you expect, they should be the guy, the extension of you, who's keeping guys in check. If we're calling something, getting guys where they're supposed to be. And I'm sure he was that guy, just knowing him as an adult. And his knowledge and work ethic for the game, I imagine as a player, he was the same way. So, yeah, I could see that for sure.
Well, and I guess Caleb is kind of what you're saying is right now, you've got a basketball team that are probably mostly coach driven. You want them to become player driven, and you want to be able to grab that point guard by the shoulder and say, hey, this is your team. Figure it out. Because because you've got to have a quarterback on the floor because there's only so much you can do for them.
Yeah, 100%. And I've got some guys that I've definitely have gotten in their ear. Some maybe like it, some maybe don't. But the only returning player that I had on the varsity is our point guard, and he was a 7th grader last year playing with all seniors. And so I told him, I said, man, in reality, you are the senior. Like, you're the only guy we have back. I know you're in the 8th grade, and that's a tough pill to swallow at times. But he's a really tough kid. He's been raised right. He's been raised tough. And he's a really good player, and he's just going to grow and continue to grow into that role. And I've got 2 or 3 guys in the 7th grade that I feel like also 2 of them, 2 7th graders also had to play point guard minutes in varsity games this year as well. We're crazy, crazy young, and that's what I've told the guys. I hate hearing it. I feel like it's something right now that is kind of a crutch for us. We say, in multiple sports right now at Ider, we're young, and we are. I think the football team had 4 seniors, maybe 1 or 2 juniors. I have 1 senior and no juniors. Everybody else in my program is 10th grade and below. So that upperclassman is kind of non-existent. So a lot of guys have got thrown into that fire and haven't really had the peer relationship of, hey, this is how you do this, So it is a process, and it's something that we're fighting and growing through right now, but we're definitely going to be better for it in the future.
Yeah, they're having to kind of trying to find their way on their own. They really don't have anybody to lead the charge. But then again, you don't want to give up on this basketball team because this is the team that's kind of laying the foundation for the future of the Ider Hornet basketball program.
Yes, 100%. Our junior high's had a ton of success, and they're 12-4 right now. We lost to Scottsboro's 8th grade team, who's really good. Lost to Pisgah's junior high team. Rosalie, first game of the year, I felt like, honestly, that was probably one of our worst games of the season, but it was also a lot of those guys' first school ball game ever. And then we've lost to – who else did we lose to? Section. We lost to Section in a close game over there, and they've got a good team. I don't really feel like necessarily those guys have had a bad loss, especially considering that our best player possibly in the school for sure, and one of the best, definitely our best junior high players, not played a single junior high game because he's playing point guard on the varsity. And then we added a lot of guys from Henniger. That's been a huge blessing to our program, and then the pieces that we already had in-house. A lot of it's just learning how to win and learning how to play the game the right way, and a lot of that's not their fault. I'm the 4th or 5th head coach, I think, in 4 or 5 years. So these guys have continually had to learn new system, new verbiage, new language, and that's a hard thing to do. First year for anybody, whether you've got a ton of old guys or young guys, is just learning the way I do it or somebody else does it. So, having a group 7 through 12 that's going to know the way we do things, what's expected of us, requirements just to be a part of our program 4 and 5 and 6 years from now, people's really going to start seeing, if we've done a good job or not.
Well, and I think what you're talking about too is these young guys, don't have much of a sense of trust because every time, things start going in a positive direction, they get let down. So I guess the biggest thing you have to do is sell yourself as them trusting in you, because that's probably more important than anything right now.
Yes, 100%. And that's something I had some relationships with some of the guys prior to it, just because my wife is kind of a generational Ider family from her grandparents all the way down. They've went here K through 12. And so when I married into her family, I inherited nieces and nephews and people that played here. So I came to sporting events here and got to know people in the community. I helped Coach Pruitt for the summer before I got hired at Fort Payne. I actually coached the 7th and 8th grade girls, who's now his varsity girls. I coached them for a summer before I took the Fort Payne job. So I had relationships with people that was here. And I also knew that there was a lot of talent here. And a lot of people thought I was crazy for taking the job. Some of them maybe still do. But I feel like, especially 7th through 9th grade, I think we're as good as anybody around here, and I mean that wholeheartedly. It's just that's 7th through 9th grade. I mean, you can't expect guys who are 14, 13, 15, 16 years old to go compete with 18, 19-year-olds who's been in the system for 5 and 6 years, with just steady coaching, and they know what's expected and just learning how to win. These guys, that's kind of something that was talked about. You was talking about building relationships, is just being realistic with each other. And that's what I've told them, is one of the biggest strengths is knowing your weaknesses. And we haven't had a winning season since 2008 when Coach Brooke was the head coach here. And so that's a long time of guys just looking up to Ider basketball. And it just like winning, losing can be contagious, right? Like it's something that you can grow numb to. And that's one thing that I love about this group is I think they expect to win. They're competitors. I've had people ask me about the energy and effort in practice. These dudes have showed up every day. We practiced at 8 o'clock this morning. I mean, guys were here. They work hard. They're respectable. And I told them this morning, I read a quote last night that I loved, and I gave it to the guys this morning. It said, the person who loves walking will go further than the person who loves the destination. So basically, the guy that just wants to hold up the trophy at the end but doesn't like the walking and the work that it takes to get to that destination, he's not going to go as far as the guy who falls in love with the work. And I think we've got a group of guys here that love the work. They've spent a lot of time in the gym on their own. And that's just a testament to these guys. And I told them, I said, it might take 1 year, it might take 3 or 4 years, but at some point, the work's going to pay off, and you guys are laying the foundation for you guys and the guys to come in our program.
Yeah, of course, and I know exactly what you're saying. I held up that trophy, when I played football at Valley Head, and it's the climb. That's what makes it worthwhile. When you look back, that trophy's nice, and it gets old, and it gets tarnished, and it gets dusty, but the memories last for forever, and that's what it's all about. Well, Coach, I want to talk a little bit about your family. Of course, we'll go into the other things. Of course, I know you've got some good things actually going for Ider. They kind of sort of changed it where some of the kids from Henniger now that are, which is a feeder school for Sylvania and Ider, more of them are going to be starting to come to Ider. And I know I talked to Clay Pack, and he's hoping that's going to help the football and basketball program because, these two programs kind of go hand in hand. I think if one starts having the success, the other will.
100%. And I know that was something that we battled even at Section with the, Macedonia kids came to Section and Dutton kids had the choice. And I felt like most of the time the guys who took basketball seriously at that point at Dutton chose to come play with us. And the guys who were probably more football oriented chose to go to Pisgah. And so anytime you can have success in multiple programs, obviously it's going to benefit the school as a whole. And us being a small community, small school, I mean, we're going to have a lot of guys who are a part of at least 2 programs, if not all 3 programs. And I think that's something that we encourage because we know it's important to the success, not just for, football doing good is going to make basketball do better, which is going to make baseball do better. You hit the nail on the head as far as us being able to grow with one another.
Well, I know you've probably got a good, there's a great coaching staff at Ider, and I know you've got a great administrator. And what won you the job? Did you sit down with Mr. Brooks and do an interview? What won you the job at Ider, do you think?
I would like to think just me as a person and my interview and how I'm thought of in the basketball community, maybe my references. I feel like the guys that I've worked for respect me because I was willing to do whatever, to take anything off their plate. And this also just my family and what we stand for, who we are as people. That's what I told the guys today. If the only thing I do is make a right or left-handed layup, then I failed them as a high school coach in general. My job is to make them better people and to show them that, I'm supposed to love you. Sometimes it's tough love because you're going to have consequences, outside of sports. It ain't going to be a school or a paddling or get sent home. It's going to be, much bigger consequences. And it's my job to kind of help teach them along with their parents what those consequences look like when you don't do what you're supposed to. But as far as the interview process, I had known Coach Brooks because he coached at Sylvania and Geraldine mostly when I was in school. And so I knew Coach Brooks and had just been friends with him. We worked out at Body Vision at the same time, and we would talk ball and stuff while I was in college in the mornings sometimes. And then I sat down. I interviewed actually with Mr. Brooks, Coach Ledbetter, Nick Ledbetter, and Miss Gilbert, Tanya Gilbert. I sat down and interviewed with all of them at once and got asked questions. Obviously, Miss Gilbert asked me questions regarding academics and special education. And then Coach Ledbetter and Coach Brooks, both being head coaches in basketball and football, they hit me more with the sports questions. And I just told them, you know, they were real and honest with me up front that it was going to be a struggle to begin with. It wasn't going to be come in and win 30 games and everybody thinks you're the grandest thing right out of the gate. That it was going to be, we have a really good young foundation here, and if you're willing to stick it out and do things the right way, then you're going to reap the benefit in years to come. You know, so they were real and honest with me up front, and I knew what I was taking, and I've never ran from hard work. I feel like that's one of my positive qualities is that I enjoy the grind. And that's I've got a group of kids that I feel like do the same thing. And like I said, in years to come, we're going to reap the benefits for it.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you about this. Coach, your wife, Danny, and you've got a son, Cooper. What does Danny mean to you? I mean, being a coach's wife, it's trying. Now that you're head coach, it's really trying. So she kind of has to take over a bigger role in the family now.
Oh, 100%. She carries a big role in and out of season anyway, so I'm not going to lie. She's awesome. She does a lot, and I definitely need the help. She's super helpful as far as like even game day things. She made me a checklist of things that I need to do on game day just to help me not forget things. And she's always willing to get bottles ready or wash jerseys at home. She makes a joke, you know, she kind of becomes a single mom, not really. Like I'm there at home to sleep and I help him get ready for school in the mornings. And then there's a lot of times that I get home from a practice or game and she's already put him in bed and I miss that day of his life, you know, and that's something that I talk to my guys about too is, you know, like I love you and I'm asking you to make sacrifices, but I'm also making those same sacrifices. You know, if I'm willing to miss a day of my son's life to invest in you guys, obviously you mean a lot to me, or miss time with my wife or my parents. I also have a little sister in the 4th grade. I miss a lot of her stuff. So all of those people are extremely important to me. My dad, my mom, I have a great family support, and my wife being the biggest of those, just being with me day in and day out. But Ider means a ton to her, which makes it mean more to me because I do love her. So she loves this place, and it kind of grew me to love this place even more. So just seeing how much it means to her and her family.
Well, you got to take Cooper to practice one day, and I'm sure that's good for you because the more time he gets to spend in the gym, you'll get to spend some time with him. But I guess it's probably good for the kids too to see that, you know, to see that a little bit of the dad side of you.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I hope that I'm somebody that they can model their life after. You know, that's something. I guess I took me and Blaine Smith actually rode together to the Huntsville Times Classic the other day. And we got to talking about Coach Pruitt. And, like, me personally, I don't feel like he gets the respect he should get in the coaching community. That's my opinion. You're talking about a guy who's won basically everywhere he's been. I know he won the Sand Mountain title, boys and girls, in the same night as a head coach here at Ider. I don't know how many people's done that, but I would say it's probably not many. He's been to the Final Four at Section. He's been at Ider. He's won the title now at Ider on the boys and the girls side at multiple different schools. But the biggest thing about him, I feel like that gets knocked from the coaching standpoint, is he's not a scream, get in your face, cuss you out, grab your jersey kind of guy. You know, and I feel like a lot of coaches from the outside looking in feel like he's super buddy with you. And they feel like that causes a lack of respect. But as somebody that played for him, it's the complete opposite. Like, he's a guy that you saw him love his wife. You saw him love his kids. You knew that he loved you and cared about you. And, you know, I want to model that same thing for my guys. It's just be somebody that they can see me be a good husband to my wife, be a good father to my kids, and also be another dad figure, I guess you would say, in their life. That's super important. Super important.
Yeah, of course, you know, we had McKinley and Kinsey on with him, and they'll be the first to tell you, yeah, he's a big joker, clowner, will cut up with you, but when you walk on that floor, it's business.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And the more he knows and loves you, the harder I feel like he can talk to you. So I got a lot of hard talkings in my playing career. So yeah, he's definitely he's a competitor, no doubt. And and I know anybody that knows that if you're a competitor, I mean, when the lights come on, like it's time to go, the joking's got to stop at some point.
Yeah, I know. I asked McKinley about, does he ever get in your ear and tell you, hey, it's time to take over a game? And she just kind of was like, he don't really have to say it. She knows it, and she knows when it's time to get down to business. Well, this guy beside you, Justin, he's your dad. What has he meant to you over the years? Of course, he's the pastor at, Happy Home Baptist Church. What has he meant to you over the years, not only as a dad, but to bring you up in the sports world? Has he been a big influence on why you took up coaching?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I feel like I was the oldest, of course, and the first child, and we've talked about it as I was an adult. You learn a lot with your first child because there's no way to be prepared to be a parent, right? You learn as you go. And he was fresh out of the Marines and young, so I got a lot of tough love at an early age. And it just taught me how to be a leader. I saw him be a leader in our household. I saw him lead churches, how to handle issues. You have issues in churches just like you do as a coach or a boss anywhere else. I mean, you guys know that. Anytime you get a group of people together and you have different opinions, I mean, you're not always going to see eye to eye. And as a leader, you have to deal with both sides of that, and being able to bring different groups of people together and get them going in the same vision and believing in the same thing is something that I watched him do at multiple churches. He coached me. He was definitely harder on me than he was anybody else. Probably the only time I ever seen him get into it with a parent was after a Little League baseball game. I guess I didn't play too well, or maybe I wasn't coachable. I can't remember exactly, but I know I had to run extra after the game. So I was running poles. I was going to Scottsboro at the time. I was running poles at the RecCom in front of all the other parents. One of them said something to him, I think they got a pretty harsh response because I was his kid, not just a player. Super influential. I mean, he's my best friend. We butt heads a lot because we're a lot alike. But that's something that we've done. I mean, like you said, we're real with each other, but we get over it and go on because we know whatever we're saying is in our best interest with each other. We love each other and we die for each other for sure.
Well, Justin, what's this guy mean to you? I know you were in the military, in the Marine Corps. When you were called to preach, did that help you in being in a leadership role as being the pastor of a church?
Yeah, you can't talk to people in a church like you do in the Marine Corps, that's for sure. That ministry wouldn't last very long. But, that was it did help. My Marine Corps stint was a little short. I had an injury, and I didn't get to finish my enlistment. Wasn't what I had planned. I was going to be a career Marine, retire. That was my goal in life, but God had different plans, and I'm glad he did. As far as this guy here, with your first kid, I've got 3 kids. And Caleb came along. Actually, I have 4 kids. My wife lost our oldest child. She carried her 8.5 months. And we didn't know after we lost her whether we were going to have kids or not. The doctors were like, you could, if you do, it's going to be high risk. And so Caleb was definitely a gift. He's right when he tells you I was harder on him. I think at times we've had to have those conversations like, Dad, you didn't. My middle child, my youngest son, is a senior at Sanford this year. He's like, you weren't as hard on Ethan about this or that. And some of it was I learned that sometimes you make mountains out of molehills and you don't have to as a parent. He probably got the best of me as far as being young. My daughter's probably getting the best of me as far as being mature because she came along when I was 40. And plus she's a girl. I baby her probably a little bit more than I did these guys. But this guy, I've been proud of him. I kind of always knew he was going to coach. I didn't tell him that. I let him kind of feel his way, and he'll tell you that. He first got out of college, and, he was in college, decided he's going to go be an electrician, and got married and called me one day on the way home from Chattanooga. I guess, what's he going to do, fire me if I tell you this story, but I'll tell you. Yeah. And he basically called me and told me he was miserable. And he was working as an electrician. And he was doing good. I knew the guy that owned the company or ran the company and kind of helped get him the job. And everybody was bragging on him. He's like, Dad, I'm miserable. And he basically told me I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And my response to him was, you ain't got to talk to me about it no more. You got a wife. You need to go home and talk to her about that. And I knew he was probably going to be a coach. He loved it too much. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him more than what he does here, to watch him love his wife, love Coop. They're expecting another one. And so we're excited about that. And so it's cool. It's cool to get to watch him love on young men and lead them. He's already learning. There's always naysayers, and there's people you got to deal with, things you got to deal with. And so we kind of walk through those things. And I tell him it's always safe to vent to me, and then you can go say what needs to be said, but you can't always say what you want to say. And so we do that. I hope I'm a good soundboard, but I'm proud of him. He's a great, great man. Most of all, he loves the Lord. He tries his best to live for the Lord and do what's right. And as a dad, what more could you ask for? I mean, he's a hard worker. You wasn't going to outwork him as a player, and you're probably not going to outwork him as a coach. He gets on me a little bit like that. You hadn't logged in huddle. You hadn't been watching much film. You know, he got on me about that kind of inadvertently the other day, kind of dropped a hint like he knew I had been watching a lot of film on our opponents. And so I had to just take it and go, he's right. I had been watching a lot of film. You know, I could have made excuses, but I never let him make excuses. I could have said, well, I'm pastor in church, raising a family, you know, and I was like,
Yeah.
he's right. I hadn't stuck my nose in the film a lot. So, but I'm proud of him. I love him. And at the end of the day, he gets it. It's bigger than dribbling and passing and shooting and all that stuff. And listen, I'm as competitive as anybody. He'll tell you that. So when the lights are on, I want us to go, but I also understand that we want these young men to be fathers and dads and to be good community members, to be good church, you know. And most of all, I mean, I'm not shy about that. If they don't know the Lord, we'd like to be a part of them understanding that there's a lot bigger things in life than that, and that's to know the Lord as their Savior. But yeah, I'm proud of him.
Well, Justin, of course, you know, being an assistant coach, that gives you an opportunity. Of course, you know, y'all have a great youth program at Happy Home. I've been there a couple of times and listened to you preach. But, you know, this is a great way to also spread the wealth and you know, and touch youth outside the church, which I think sometimes speaks more volumes sometimes than it does inside the church, because you can kind of lead by example.
100%. And real ministry usually takes place outside the walls of a church anyway. So that's what I've learned. I learned it at North Jackson, and I was fortunate to have good administrators and principals down there and coaches, and you know, and they were very good letting me pour into kids and love on kids and helping coach what little I knew how to coach. And so it's been I've been blessed to be able to do that at most places I've been. When I was in Scottsboro pastor, and I ran the Little League football program down there. So I got to love on a lot of kids in a lot of different ways, and God's blessed me to be able to do that. And it's kind of cool getting to do it with your son now. So it's pretty neat that we get to do this together. So I don't know if he's going to fire me yet or not. I got a 1-year contract. We'll figure it out after this year. So
I think right now he probably needs all the help he can get, I would imagine, when you're first starting out. Well, tell me this. What does grandson Cooper mean to you? Is he the apple of your eye?
Well, my little girl would tell you she is, and she is. But
Yeah.
Coop's got he is at the top of the list. I told Caleb, and I meant it. I said, if I could have had Cooper without having you, I'd have skipped you. Cooper's fun. I already see I'm going to have to pull Dad off of him a little bit sometimes. I'm going to have to back off a little bit. But Coop's my buddy. He makes my bad days good. So there's nothing like grandkids. If you hadn't got them yet, I don't know whether you do or not. I highly recommend them. Pretty good. So
Yeah, pretty good. Well,
yeah.
Caleb, you know, of course, you talked about you'd spent a year at Ider working under Jamie Pruitt. Well, then a job opened down at Fort Payne, and you spent 3 years down at Fort Payne under Coach Steve Sparks. What did you learn from him? Of course, you was the JV coach. And, of course, my niece, Kinsley Worthy, played for you at one point, and she's talked highly of you. And she hated seeing you leave at Fort Payne, but she understood, you know, they were greener pastures for you. What was it like coaching under Coach Sparks?
It was a phenomenal thing for me. he's one of my best friends now, and I mean that sincerely. We talk on the phone at least once a week, if not more. We're both super busy right now because I'm in his role at a different place now, and I know how much time he puts into it. He knows how much time I'm going to put into it because I put the same amount of time when I was an assistant. But it was great for me. I would say the biggest thing was contrast and style of play, but it was very eye-opening. Growing up playing a lot of smaller classification ball is I don't want to use the word chaotic, but it's more chaotic. Like a lot of people just press, run and gun, play extremely fast. And not that there's not an art or coaching to that. There's also a lot of freedom once you teach that you have to let go and just kind of let your players play within the realms of your system. And Coach Sparks being at a place where most nights we were out-athleted, being at the 6A level at Fort Payne, he does a phenomenal job of being able to get his best players or the players that he feels like needs to shoot or score in the areas they need to shoot or score in. And we've had those conversations. He said that he used to play fast, and then he would get to Jacksonville every year, and he was trying to put the brakes on because they were playing girls that were so athletic, he knew they couldn't run and gun with them for 4 quarters. So he said, that he kind of changed his playing style to what he knew he was going to have to play in the postseason and the 5 and 6A level. He's a great teacher. He knows the game. I feel like he's one of the best around. I mean, Scottsboro's ranked number 1 in 5A right now, and they have 1 loss. It's to Coach Sparks. He always finds a way to give his kids an opportunity to win on nights that they should win. I don't feel like we lost many games in 3 years that we probably just shouldn't have lost. Of course, we did a few. That happens everywhere. But the games that we were supposed to win and win by a good margin, I feel like we did that on a consistent basis. And a lot of that's just how Coach had the girls prepared and the way that he goes about things.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you about this. During your playing days at Section, what was one of your most memorable moments?
For sure, winning the regionals our senior year and going to Birmingham. I think at that time we were the first Jackson or DeKalb County boys team to go to Birmingham in a 10-year span. That was right before Coach Coker got things rolling at Plainview and a few of the other local schools that's made it down there since then. We had really good teams my freshman and sophomore year. My sophomore year, I started with 4 seniors, and we had about 3 or 4 seniors on the bench that come off and played a lot of minutes. A really talented group that just couldn't get over the hump, and we got beat. We won the right to host our area, and then got beat at home by Tyler Van. Actually, sorry about that. Fife beat us that year. Tyler Van beat us my freshman year at home in the area tournament on a buzzer beater. But we got sent to Westbrook Christian back-to-back years, my freshman and sophomore years, and got beat on the road at their place. They were really good. Had a kid that went and played basketball at Troy. Who was a phenomenal player. And then my junior year, I was kind of really the only guy returning that had played valuable varsity minutes. Had a lot of good players and a lot of my close friends. They just hadn't been in those situations, and we struggled that year. I think it was like 17 and 15 or 16 and 15, just slightly over 500. And then the next year, one of my best friends, Caleb Haynes, his dad retired at Sylvania. We had become extremely close, and he lived in Section. He moved in, which was a huge part of us going on the run that we went on. And it was the first team and one of the few teams that I played on that I really felt like everybody loved each other. Like we didn't have that 1 or 2 guys were good friends, and you had 2 or 3 guys over here, 2 or 3 guys over here. Like we genuinely loved each other. All those guys were in my wedding. We still talk, all of us, 10 years later. And that was the thing. My junior year, I scored a ton of points. I think I had 7 or 8 games where I scored in the 30s. And then my senior year, Caleb Haynes comes in. He's a post player, 6'5", 6'6" guy who's really good inside. So we kind of changed the way we played. I scored a lot less that year, but it was for the betterment of the team. I mean, I had my nights still where I scored the most, and he had his nights where he scored the most, and we had nights where other guys scored the most. And me and Coach Pruitt kind of had that conversation the other night, actually. I said, man, if you had told me that I had to sit on the bench for every second and we'd have won the state title in the Final Four, I said I'd have sat on the bench. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I just felt like we were a group of guys that really loved and cared for each other. That was the biggest moment. Our point guard, Logan Short, he hit a buzzer beater. I would say he phenomenal athlete, one of our best defenders, not one of our best shooters. And it was kind of one of those things we had battled. I think we won 37-34, if I'm not mistaken. We had fouled a guy on a three-pointer, and he hit all three free throws to tie the game. And we come down, and it was one of those situations. I've joked with him about it too. If he ends up watching this, I was one more pass away and wide open, and I feel like I was their best shooter. I definitely took the most shots from the outside for sure. And I didn't get thrown the ball, and he shot it. So it's one of those things like you kind of like, oh no, and then the ball goes in, and everybody goes berserk because we're going to Birmingham. And it was a great moment for him. He lost his mom tragically like a week or two later at a really young age from a heart attack. And there's actually a picture. I know he's got it framed. A lot of us saw it where we were all going crazy, and she was standing up in the stands behind him celebrating. So I think it was kind of a God moment. You know, he was meant to take that shot for her to see that shot go in and for us to kind of get over that hump that we had worked for 4 years.
Yeah, that's those kind of memories you'll tell your grandkids about one of these days for sure. Well, I want to ask you one more thing, and then I'm going to let Randy ask a few questions. When we go to watch Ider play, what kind of style are we going to see? I'm sure right now you're having to play according to your personnel, but what kind of style are we going to see? Are you an X's and O's type coach? Do you want to run press defense? What kind of style of basketball are we going to see?
I think X's and O's should be involved no matter how you play. Some people may argue that. That's my opinion. I think anybody that does it the right way will play fast or slow. There has to be some kind of scheme and X's and O's involved. There's not many teams. I think anybody would tell you this. I'm good friends with Coach Coker, Coach Sparks, Coach Pruitt, guys that's won a ton of games. There's not many teams where you're just going to pitch it up and let high schoolers make decisions constantly and win at a high level. You know, you're going to beat the guys you're supposed to beat, but it's like I've told somebody before, I feel like in the games where it's win or lose by 10 or less, I feel like that's probably where the most coaching is involved, to be honest. If you're beating somebody 40 or 50 or you're getting beat 40 or 50, there's probably a big talent gap, whichever side of that win or loss that you're on. But, yeah, I want us to be known for just how hard we play. I feel like that's something that I've always been complimented on. I know my girls at Fort, we got complimented on that. I coached at Hollywood Middle School for a year, coached the boys there. We got complimented on that. I think anybody that's successful night in and night out has guys that are girls that are going to go out there and lay it on the line, regardless of the situation. Probably to answer your question, if you watch our junior high play right now, night in and night out, that's probably how we're going to play in the future. We're going to press. We're going to try to guard you 94 feet. And I'm going to give my guys as much freedom as I can allow them. That still gives us the best chance to succeed. Kinsley, I know I coached your niece. She was somebody definitely who had a bunch of freedom with me. She's an extremely good athlete. And she was easy to coach because I could coach her hard because her mom and dad was always hollering in the stands too. So that made my job easier. But yeah, we definitely probably a mixture, I guess, of guys that I've worked for. I mean, I feel like Coach Pruitt is a phenomenal play developer. Not that he's not good at X and O's, but I feel like if you ask me what his best strengths are, I would say he's great at making you a better basketball player and then allowing you to go be a basketball player. He's somebody that's going to give you the tools in your tool belt to go work, and then he's going to put you in situations that just kind of let you work. Like if you're a good player, he's going to let you play. I feel like Coach Sparks is an extremely good X and O's coach, and somebody who you're going to play hard or you're going to come out. There's my way or the highway. And, you know, I want to be a blend of those two guys, really. I want us to play fast and get up and down. When I call something, I expect you to run it. But at the same time, I'm also going to give you a lot of freedom in between those calls of if you're a player and you can go make a play, go make a play. I mean, that's what kids enjoy. That's what I enjoyed as a player, is the freedom aspect of it too.
Well, I want to ask you just something I just thought of. I wanted to add in case we forgot that. A couple of things. One thing, your faith, very important to you, I'm sure. What is a trait God has given you, your best trait personality that you are able to share on the court or off the court, with your players, with others? What is your best trait, do you feel like, that God has given you that you can share with others?
I feel like I'm an extremely likable person to multiple types of people. I don't mean to say that arrogantly, like everybody likes me. I mean, I'm sure there's people that don't like me. But I went to 3 different schools. I went to Scottsboro, Stevenson Middle School, and Section High School, 9 through 12. My dad pastored 3 different churches in my childhood. So I was through into the fire as far as meeting people from multiple cultures, multiple backgrounds, upper class, low class, different races. And I always found a way to get along with everybody. I felt like I was somebody that could be a leader, and I felt like people was easily led by me because they liked and respected me. I think I'm somebody, when the rubber meets the road, I'm going to tell you how I feel, and it's going to get real. But I'm also super understanding, and I try to give people grace and opportunities because I know everybody's fighting different things, whether it be their home situation or, not everybody's blessed with an easy life. God gives some people tough roads, and I know he gives them that for a reason. I've been blessed. I was born into a good family. I have a married mom and dad to show me what marriage looks like. I've had good friends. I haven't had anything, I would say, just hugely detrimental happen to me personally. I've definitely had, hurdles that I've had to overcome and jump, but I've been extremely blessed, but I know that's not everybody's case. And I think that's just me being able to understand that not everybody's is afforded the same opportunities or are given the same things is my best trait as far as being able to connect with anybody, really.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you this. Music. At Happy Home. Your part. Music's part of your life. Is that something that's a gift for you that sometimes gives you an out? Because being a basketball coach, a dad, a parent, does music sometimes kind of give you an out?
100%. That's something on my dad's side of the family is extremely talented musically. I actually have a distant cousin who's won a Grammy in gospel music. My great uncle who gave me my first guitar, he was on the show. What was it?
Be a Star National Network.
Yeah, You Should Be a Star. You Could Be a Star on National Network, which is like the old version basically of The Voice or American Idol. He made it to the finals on that and got aired all over Nashville. He's played with big time country music artists and had huge opportunities. So it's something that I always kind of looked up to, but I didn't really take the time to do as a kid. Like I took guitar lessons a few times as a kid, but you're so busy with ball and everything. And as an athlete, like if it was go shoot basketball or go throw a ball with dad in the yard or sit down and play guitar, at that time in my life, I didn't choose to play guitar. I really picked up the guitar my junior year. And honestly, you saying that, when I moved to Section, I got really close. One of my best friends, his name was Jordan Hooper. He died going into the summer of my sophomore year in a tragic car accident. It was something that I struggled with a lot because I was invited to go hang out with him that night. He drove a little single cab truck. It was a Ford F-150. It had a bench seat in it. And it was him and one of my other friends, who's still one of my best friends to this day. They invited me to go. I just started dating a girl, so I chose the girl that night. So I didn't get in trouble, right? And ended up, they went and picked up somebody, and long story short, had a wreck, and it killed the girl that they picked up and my best friend. And I struggled with that for a long time. That was one of the hurdles that I was kind of like, you always ask yourself those questions of, well, if I would have went instead of the girl, they wouldn't have went there. You play all those devil advocate games in your mind, which is really tough. And I kind of turned to music shortly after that. I picked up the guitar that my uncle had given me years ago. Just kind of started teaching myself. And I do believe it's a gift that God's given me. My ability to play and sing is something that kind of come easy to me. I need to put a lot more time and effort into it, honestly, because it is something that he's blessed me with. But it's definitely an out for me. I recently just got my dad's dad. I never got to meet my dad's dad. He passed away in his 40s from a heart attack. So I play his guitar a lot now. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, my low battery popped up. We're good. But I play his guitar. I was actually playing it today before I come up here. It's just a way like you said, it's a way to escape and just kind of it's just when you're playing music or you're singing or you're doing those things, if that's something that you're blessed to be able to do, I feel like it takes everything off your mind in that moment. You can just kind of sit down and get behind an instrument and play. And in that moment, that's all you're focused on. And you can kind of just let the world set aside for a little while, which in the coaching world is really hard to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, go ahead, Randy. I'll let you ask him.
Hey, Coach, okay, I'll start with, I got 2 questions.
Okay.
We'll let Coach Henshaw's, both of them, get off here. Coach, first of all, I went through this struggle with a football team I cover. They were very young, but they played South Pittsburgh every year, and South Pittsburgh being a perennial state champion. And then now you see Marion County won a state championship. Sequatchie County, where I covered for years, plays South Pittsburgh and Marion County. And I think watching those kids play and preparing to play in the playoffs taught our kids something about what it takes mentally to win. Do you ever find your boys watching the girls team just to get that mental aspect of the game?
I don't know. I would say yes, to an extent, but I kind of bouncing off what you just said. We also, like in our area right now, we have Skyline, who was ranked number 1 or 2 in the state in the boys' side in the first rankings. We have Oakwood, who was ranked in the top 5 in the state. We've played Coosa Christian, who's a top 10 team in the state. And then we've also played Pisgah, and we played Decatur Heritage Friday. They're both top 10 2A teams in the state. So not only are we young, we've played an extremely tough schedule, a lot of nights. And, that's what I've referenced to those guys, especially Skyline and Oakwood, because they're in a unique situation where their school doesn't have a football team. And I remember I preached to them when we played Skyline, like this is a lot to a lot of schools. Friday Night Lights, we're in the South. I mean, I'm not crazy. Football to a lot of people is the big thing, right? To me, I was always a basketball fan. So to me, basketball was always huge. But I told the guys, to a Skyline kid, when they step out there, that's the biggest thing in the world to them. They don't have football on Fridays. That's what they do in that community. And I said, when we get to the point to where not that football is not important or that baseball is not important, but every time we step out on the court, it's life or death in your mind. You're going to do whatever it takes to win or to make it happen, make the next play. That's when we can really climb the hump. And right now, you have to be realistic in the aspect of, like you said, playing those teams in years, it's going to help you. But a 14 to 19-year-old gap is huge in development, especially more in boys than girls. I've coached both. You can take a girl in the 7th grade and throw her in a varsity game, and if she's a good player, she has a chance to be successful because girls mature so much quicker. There's a huge difference in a 13-year-old boy and a 17, 18, 19-year-old man, right? That's a young man versus a boy. And that's what it is a lot of nights for us right now. But like you said, in years to come, it's only going to make us that much better because we do have the girls' success and that we can turn towards and say, hey, look at the time and the effort that they're putting in. They're successful. But we're also putting in the same time and effort as they are. They know that. Coach Pruitt knows that. It's just the hand that we're dealt currently. But we're going to reap what we sow in the future, and the guys know that. I believe it.
Iron sharpens iron. And we made it to the semifinals this year, and I think a lot of it is those kids maybe as 8th and 9th graders taking some lumps from some teams that won state championships. So
yeah, 100%. And that's kind of what I've told the guys. I said, and they know this, in reality, if we were playing a JV schedule, because we're JV and junior high age, we would have a lot more wins than losses right now. I mean, that's just the truth. They know it. I think most parents know it, or I hope that they know it. That's just the reality of it. But also, it's like I've told them too. I said, guys, you can look at it 2 ways. I said there's kids at other programs that right now as 9th and 10th graders are having to play JV ball because they're not good enough to be on the varsity because of the upperclassmen. And I said their first year of varsity as a junior is going to be your 3rd or 4th or 5th or 6th year on the varsity because you got through in the fire a lot earlier. So experience is something that you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. And in 2 or 3 or 4 years, we're literally going to be one of the most experienced teams in the state of Alabama. And that's going to be a blessing when it comes to that point. So,
That's great. Coach Henshaw, the dad. Now, I've got a question that on game day,
Yes.
do you have a list of tasks you want to take away from Caleb, Coach Henshaw? Or is there just like your game day routine to free him up to focus on something?
I'm trying to do better at that so he don't fire me. I teach at Cornerstone Christian Academy during the day at Rainsville. I'm the assistant principal there. So a lot of times I don't have access to him during the day. I try to get here early. As soon as I can get here out of school, I try to get to the gym as early as I can and just kind of hit him up and go, hey, what do we need to get done? Because of some nights, like we played Coosa here, we're playing junior high JV varsity. There was no girls games. Well, he's literally coaching one team and sending another one to the locker room while another one's coming out for him to coach them. So it's kind of one of those deals. I kind of run locker room, kind of make sure before we leave, hey, son, let's get make sure we get our uniforms in the washer, get those washed, do whatever I can to make his life easier, which is not probably as much as he wished I could do, but I do what I can. We're developing that a little bit, more. I think he's learning more what he needs me to do. And he knows all he's got to do is tell me, like, Dad, you need to get this done, and I will. I hope I'm coachable, because if I'm not, then I lied to him his whole life telling him he needs to be coachable. So I hope I am coachable in that area.
Coach, also back to one comment you made. I have a daughter that was born when I was 44. And just being a parent at that age makes you a different person.
It does. Yes, sir. It does. It does. And I'm probably going to start a prison ministry in about 6 or 7 years from the inside out, because I'm not going to handle the dating years very well at all. So I'm probably just going to, if you hear I'm in jail, you'll know why in about 6 years. So.
Hey, let me go ahead and throw that 14, 15-year-old girl, period.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Coach, last question I got, if Phil's got anything to follow up, what can we do to help you? Y'all doing fundraisers? Have you got your money in place for the year? Or what can us as people that support the program do at this point?
Of course, the biggest thing I feel like you guys can do, we have great community support. Not that we wouldn't take any extra, of course. I'm never going to turn down extra support as far as finances go, because that's a huge blessing. But the biggest thing, and that's what I told you, Randy, on the text. It's just publicity. Like, I feel like a lot of things like our girls get publicized. They deserve to get publicized. They've got some of the best players in the state in small classifications. They're winning night in and night out. Coach Pruitt does a great job. And I think this speaks for anybody. Just like I said earlier, like, we're putting in the same amount of time and effort that the girls are as a coach, as a player. And win or lose, like, everybody deserves to be publicized. And you guys are doing that now, and I appreciate that. But I think anybody that's trying to do it the right way, their kids deserve it. The coaches deserve it, more so the kids. That's why we do this, is for the kids. But, they're lifting. They're coming up here, giving up weekends. Like, when they finished football on Friday night, and we played 2 weeks from that Friday. They didn't get a day off. We went Saturday, Sunday. We went 14 days straight right out of football. So them guys played football at 7 o'clock on Friday night. 8 o'clock the next morning, we're in the gym going at it. So I can honestly say wholeheartedly, like, nobody's outworked our program. I know win-loss column don't always speak for that, but the guys deserve to be publicized. So if you can just keep publicizing our kids, all outer sports. I love all the guys here, all our coaches here. I feel like are good people. They're doing it for the right reasons and the right way. They deserve it, and I know our community would appreciate it, and I definitely would.
All you got to do is talk to me and Phil. We ain't got no friends other than each other. So.
Hey, I'll be your friend.
We're happy to have somebody new to talk to. Philip, take us out tonight.
Well, just to tell you guys, that's the reason, a lot of the reason we have started doing this is because it's great to hear families, coaches, a little bit of a side of a coach that a lot of people don't know about, parents don't know about, fans don't know about, because if you know a little bit about somebody, you're less apt to criticize, and I think that's huge when it comes to athletics, because most people only see what happens on Tuesday night and Friday night. They don't see the things behind the scenes. They don't understand the lessons that these young men learn. They only see the product on Friday night, and sometimes they judge a program by that, and it's not fair.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, everybody's not given the same deck of cards, right? I mean, I think if you handed the two coaches equal talent, you'd see who the better coach was and give them some time to develop it. That's a fair statement. But, you hear guys that say, hey, the best year I've ever done coaching, we won 5 games because it wasn't supposed to win any games that year, And then the year they won 30 games, hey, they were supposed to win 30 because they had the best kids, And I just feel like, ultimately, like I said, you hit the nail on the head. Like, you hope that parents know and that supporters and people in the community know that you're giving up really more time than anybody because you can't put it down. I'm coaching junior high parents drop their kids off. I'm here coaching. JV and high school kids drop their kids off. I'm here coaching. After I've taught school and then I go home, I'm watching film, when my wife is not asking for her time, right? And she deserves that time. It's hard sometimes when you go home to be at home, and that's probably the biggest struggle, I would say, for me as a first-year head coach and just being a super competitive, hardworking guy is sometimes to set it aside and say, all right, now it's time for my wife and me and my mom and my dad and put Ider away for a little while, And I feel like that's the biggest thing that a lot of people, like you said, on Fridays or Tuesdays or Thursdays, whatever the sport is, they don't see is how much time it requires for you, not just physically, but mentally. It's just something that you're always thinking about and that you're always got going with you.
Hey,
Yeah,
Coach,
of course. I know that when you got the job, I know when you found out you got the job, immediately you think I'm going to change the world, so to speak. But then reality sets in. You don't have that crutch to lean on, having the varsity coach that's actually the boss. Now it's all on you, and it makes it a little bit tougher right now.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not so much like, I feel like Coach Sparks did a phenomenal job. That's what I've told people from the beginning, to hit on him again. Like, he did a phenomenal job of showing me every aspect of how to run a program. I mean, I think he truly was grooming me to be a head coach, and I think he did a phenomenal job at it, from, how to manage money, how to fundraise, how to set up a gym, take down a gym, what the day in and day in aspects of being a head coach look like. I didn't show up on game days and he said, all right, coach, I need you to fill up the water bottles and, you're going to help call baseline out of bounds, or you're going to do special situations tonight, or whatever the scouting scheme was. You're going to do the scouting report. And I did a lot of those things, drive the bus. But he did a really good job, and probably because a lot of it was because we became such good friends, of showing me every aspect of how to run a program. I feel I feel like that's part of, you asked me why I got the job. I feel like that was a big reason why, is him being a reference for me and them speaking to him, because I worked with him day in and day out for 3 years. I feel prepared to run a program, but it's like you said, you're not going to come in and change the world. If you hadn't had a winning season in almost 20 years, you ain't going to change it in 3 months. I mean, David didn't beat Goliath on the day that he was supposed to. It was years of faith and growth, and all those situations you read about. It wasn't you get thrown in the fire and now you're the superhero, right? Like, you've groomed and iron sharpened iron, like Randy said. It's a long, grueling process. I mean, you're not going to flip a coin. If we had 20 kids move in that were juniors and seniors, not 10 years old, we'd probably change the world this year. Yeah. but with our situation, it's a process. The kids know it. The community knows it. And I knew it when I took the job. So I've been realistic from day one.
One more thing, Justin, I want to throw one out there for you. I've visited Happy Home Baptist Church a couple of times. Sell us on your church. Tell us of some of the things that goes on, and tell us how does your faith, help? Do you think helps Caleb? Because I'm sure sometimes you have to have a little bit of faith, because sometimes times are trying on the basketball court.
Yes, sir. It is. It is. As far as our church goes, man, I've been there 10 years, the longest I've ever stayed at any church. I think we're probably unique, especially for a rural church in Alabama. Just our demographics, we are very blessed to have a very good representation of all age groups in our church. A lot of great folks. It's like I tell them all the time, you're only as good as the people around you, and God's put some great people around me, and Caleb's one of them. He helps me at church just like I try to help him here. we have great folks, they really love the Lord. That's the most important thing. And I think in turn, it makes them love people. And we're unique. When you show up there, you may see guys with ponytails and motorcycle jackets, and you'll see guys in coats and ties. And so it's a very diverse group of folks. And I love that about our church. I think you can come there and feel at home and feel welcomed. And that's what we want. As far as my faith, I've taught him he can't live on my faith. He's going to have his own. But I do try to encourage him because I've been there. I literally, and I've told my Happy Young folks this, when I left the church in Stevenson, we were probably the biggest church in Bridgeport or Stevenson. We had 40 or 50 kids sometimes in our youth group on Wednesday nights, 7th through 12th grade. New facilities, new family life center. And when God kind of started telling me about going to Happy Home, some guys I thought very highly of told me it was not a very smart move as far as going there. But you just got to trust that if you're where God wants you to be, that God works all the rest of that stuff out. And he has. And that's what I told Caleb. He's like, Dad, I prayed about this job. I prayed about it. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. Me and Danny have prayed about it. And so I told him, if God wants you here, he's got you here for a reason. And I think sometimes we think we're here for the kids to grow, and we are. But he's growing me and Caleb too, because we're having to learn. Caleb's been fortunate. He's not really been a part of a lot of losing, whether it was rec league, baseball, football, basketball. We were playing for titles. We were winning. He played for Coach Pruitt. They won the county both years he was in junior high. Like he's really never experienced that. But I think, and I know that probably ain't what we want to hear right now, but it's taught both of us already some things and puts things in perspective too. But I will say this about our kids, and I'll say this: they didn't win a game in football. That's not a secret. We haven't won a varsity game yet in basketball, but they're in here this morning, and they're coachable. They're showing up. They still got a great attitude. I think they like being around us. They also know we're going to push them, and they're going to, but I think his faith is strong. I think he's had to help me a little bit. I don't know if I've struggled with it more than he has sometimes. So, but no, he's done good, and I think that's why God puts us together. So.
Yeah,
well, I think it makes you humble, but then greater things to come. And Caleb, before I know you was fixing to answer something. Before we let you get out of here, and something I totally forgot. Will you mention some of your basketball players? Because I know they like to hear the names, and you were talking about exposure, and that's really the best way if you mention some of those guys, because I know that's important for them and their families.
Yeah, so I don't want to call off the whole list, because if I left somebody out, I'd feel guilty, and I might hear from them.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
But no, McKinley, you've got the trailer girls that play on the girls' side. I also have both of their brothers in my program. Brindley Trailer, her little brother's a 7th grader, Bryant. He's a really good player as well. He played varsity multiple nights this year as a 7th grader. And then McKinley's brother Braxton is the one kid that we had that I said returned from the varsity last year. He started as a 7th grader and is now an 8th grader on the varsity. We have a huge sophomore class. We've got 2 twin brothers, Taylor and Tyler Kidwell. Just to name the varsity, we've got Taylor and Tyler Kidwell, they're sophomores. We've got Jordan Goza, he's a senior. He moved in this year from Sylvania because his younger brother come as a freshman from Henniger, and they wanted to be together. So he's our one upperclassman. And then we have Gary McMahon, who's a sophomore. We have Dalton and Axel Williams, they're brothers. They're both freshmen. And then we have Braxton, who's an 8th grader. Am I leaving somebody out? I think that's it on varsity. Yeah. If I left somebody, I apologize. But no, every kid here is equally important, and that's what I've preached to them from day one. You're always going to have the kid who scores the most points and gets in the newspaper, makes the most tackle and gets in the newspaper. And I've told them I use Taylor Swift, which I know is funny, but I used to use that with the girls, so I just kept it going. But I said, like if you showed up to a Taylor Swift concert and you've paid this money, and the guy who was supposed to set up the sound equipment or bring a microphone out there on the stage didn't do his job, you wasted your money, And so then the guy that you didn't know his name, his role becomes super important because Taylor Swift can't do her part if he doesn't do his part, you know. And that's something that I preach to the guys day in and day out. We had a long talk after practice today, just about what's expected of them and about how we value them as people and as young men. And, you know, getting the Merry Christmas text from my players or getting a gift from a parent or a family, you know, those are the things that, to me, say, hey, you're doing a good job because a kid cares about you. You know, Kinsley Worthy texted me last night saying that she wants to watch the show, and I'm not even at Fort Payne anymore. You know, my first or second varsity game here, I looked up in the stands. I had about 12 girls from Fort Payne over there in their own little student section cheering me on. So, you know, those are the kind of things that I feel like says you're doing the right thing, and being a success is making an impact on kids' lives. And that's what Dad said, to piggyback off him. A lot of people said I was crazy for leaving Fort Payne. The guys that are close to me know I took a pay cut. I was in a good situation. I love my day job there, as coaches call it. I love teaching there. I love my coworkers on the academic side. I also love working with Coach Sparks, Coach Coker, all those guys, Coach Banks. We were like a family down there, just like we are here. And I'm still close and respect those guys. But one thing that stood out to me about those guys is none of them told me don't take it. You know, like, it's a bad situation. They knew it. Like Randy said kind of at the beginning, everybody's got to get their first job. And it's also a place that I wholeheartedly believe that we can win in the future, in the near future, and the next few years to come. And some people that don't know the kids that we have here currently, like I said, probably don't think so. That's fine. And that's what I preach to the guys. It's okay to be the underdog, because once you get to the top, you're hunted every night, right? That's what Coach Pruitt experiences. They got the big target on their back now. But those guys, Coach Sparks, Coach Coker, shout out to those guys for just being upfront and honest with me. They support me, you know, told me they believed in me. They thought I'd do a phenomenal job, that if anybody could do it, they thought I could do it. You know, and those are things as a young coach that you want to hear from guys that are not only well-respected locally, but guys that are both going to be in the Hall of Fame, especially at least locally, if not at the state level. So I've got, like Dad said, you're only as good as the people that's around you. And I've got great assistants, great community, great parents. That's a big reason I came here, is the family environment. And then one thing you can say about Ider, if you've ever been to an Ider sporting event, win, lose, or draw, they always bring a good crowd. Like, we have a super supportive community. I mean, I went to the majority of the football games. I didn't go to a few away games, but every game I could go to, those guys, crowd was good every night. You know, you show up here, we're struggling right now at the varsity level, but we're young guys that are competing and playing hard. Our crowds are good every night. Like, we have phenomenal community support, and that's a huge reason that I chose to come here.
You know, Coach, my role in this, and you brought him up earlier, I hosted the Tyler Van Show for 2 years when he was at Sylvania. And if I got him ready for his 19 radio shows and 4 podcasts at Scottsboro, I have a role playing to get the coaches ready for all the media attention they get.
Right. Yeah, Coach Van is a good one, man. And for the people that don't know it, he was an extremely good basketball player too. He was good at baseball. He was good at basketball. I've never seen him play ping pong, but I'd say he's probably good at that too. He's just one of the.
He was at the pick'em contest with us for no reason. I mean, he'd even pick against Alabama, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, for sure. He's a competitive guy, and we've talked over text and stuff before, and I competed against him. He was a senior my freshman year, so I only got to play against him 1 year, but he's a great guy. I respect him a lot and what he's doing. He's done a good job everywhere he's been.
Well, I got him ready now for all the Tyler Van shows that are on the 4 radio.
Hey, you're the reason he is where he's at today, Randy. I believe that.
Yeah.
I'm getting you ready for sub-state and regionals right now.
Yes, sir.
My coach is on the air embarrassing me, so I got to have it ready. So
my brother came home from Sanford this weekend, and I told him, I said, hey, if we win, you ain't going back to Birmingham there. So if we start winning, you're gonna be doing the Caleb Henshaw show, Randy.
That's it. All we got to do is put it together. And I'm telling you, and if I can get Coach Benefield to come on here and not yell at me, even though he did lecture me because I told him he didn't throw the tight end enough. So yeah, that's another whole thing. So
that's pretty gutsy right there to tell Coach that.
Well, he told me the object in football was to score touchdowns, and he threw to his tight end 16 times and scored 14 times. He didn't know what I was talking about, but the object was to score. So
Can't argue the numbers.
Phil, anything else tonight?
No, I just want to say I appreciate you guys coming on, and we'll look forward to doing it again. And I know things are going to get better for Ider basketball. That's for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys.
I believe that the right coach was in a spot more than I do tonight. I look forward to the success you're going to have, Coach.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Get out of here.
Y'all have a good New Year's.
Yeah,
Coach,
thank you.
good night. God bless.